Hey everybody, it's Red Hook here. We're gonna stream some stuff. I'm doing some environment. I have to work on my opening.
Well, we also gotta introduce ourselves.
Yeah, I'm Chris. I'm the artist and creative director on Darkest Dungeon, and got a special guest today.
Hello. I guess I'll introduce myself. Yeah.
Yep. Introduce yourself.
I'm Jeff. I'm the studio director at Power Up Audio, and we're doing the sound effects for the Darkest Dungeon. We're not doing the music. A lot of people think that we're doing the music, but we're not. That's Stuart Chatwood, and we're not any of the voices. We're not that cool voice in the trailer. We're just cutting doors and footsteps. That's all we do.
Doors and footsteps.
To paraphrase Office Space, so what is it exactly you do then?
Well, we find anything that isn't really musical in the game, but it has audio reinforcement. That's what we do. So we like right now I'm working on the ambiences in the games and all of the impacts and the swings of the heroes and the enemies and the voices.
Yeah, there is a ton. I mean, we've got lots of cool skills and things. You guys have been working on that and UI.
Wait, who's talking? Who is this?
Oh, this is Tyler. Yeah, this is Tyler, designer.
Thank God. I thought it was just something. I thought we got hacked.
I'm super happy to be here today. I just want to say.
Why?
Cool. Hanging out with my chums and Chris draw.
Drawing some shrooms.
Some shrooms.
Yeah, so I'm doing environment stuff. I'm not going to talk about it the whole time. We'll just shoot the breeze or whatever. But rooms in the dungeon are a lot of work. More so than maybe I thought they would be. So what I'm trying to experiment with is doing almost like a bunch of clip art. There's gonna be set piece rooms. Don't worry about that. But there's also gonna be rooms where there's just regular battles and stuff. So I'm trying to basically cook up a bunch of clip art that I can use, and then paint directional light on top of it and change up the color palettes and stuff, so that we get a broad swath of foresty type rooms in this case without a huge cost to me. So that's kind of what I'm working on. Just these little mushrooms and things, and I'll organize them in layers and then bake in lighting, and it should look pretty good. Examples of set piece stuff is more let's see here, a witch's cabin kind of thing. There's a crypt I did somewhere if I haven't lost it. Yeah, I got more graveyardy type stuff because the forest has got a lot of graveyard kind of components.
Oh, that's fun.
So that'll be more boss room type stuff, but then this other stuff is just kind of set deck, basically, if you think about it like a Hollywood set, which I have no experience doing. And then the advantage of doing it let me get rid of this crypt now. The advantage of doing it pretty neutral like this is that when I actually go to put, say, this sarcophagus in a level in one of the rooms, I can either do it oh, the shadow's coming from over here, the light's kind of shining down on it or whatever, or in another room it might be oh, the light's hitting it from this side, and because it's just a supporting element, I think it'll work, and it won't require me to redraw everything a bunch of times. So that's what I'm working on.
That's cool. The shadows. Who knew we had to worry about light sources?
You don't.
I know. But now that I know you're worrying about it, I'm going to worry about it. This is what it's like to be an indie team. Is you always got to worry about everything. Now Jeff's got to worry about the sounds for it.
Yeah, actually, I spent a good portion of last night doing the ambiences for the Weald, which was really a lot of fun. Basically, we try to populate each of the ambiences of your dungeons differently, obviously. And with the Weald, we wanted to do a lot more sort of kind of nature things, but we didn't want it to be just normal, sort of Carnival Park haunted house nature stuff. Like spiders and chitters and stuff. So what I did is that I was actually looking at some birds, and our creative director, Kevin, gave some really good advice. He says that if you pitch down birds and reverse them, that they actually give off like a really cool kind of sound.
How did he find that out? He was just hanging out one Thursday afternoon and decided to pitch down some birds?
He was probably chilling with a couple of birds, St. Francis of Assisi style.
Yeah.
And then grabbed one and maybe throttled its neck. I don't know. But basically, there's I actually have one right here if you guys want to take a listen. I don't know if it's gonna blow your guys' speakers though.
Okay.
That's
all right, let's do it.
But basically, there's an alba macabre kind of bird from the jungle. It sounds kind of like this. Let me know how you guys. You guys hear that?
No.
You guys didn't hear that? Oh no, that's
no.
Okay.
Barely heard it.
Barely.
Barely.
Lotspread just asked. He thought the catacombs were separate from the Weald. They are. Each dungeon has a couple different themes, though. The Weald is like a forest that's grown over like a cemetery and then become infected with all this like mushroomy stuff. And then the ruins have their own thing going on. So there's a little bit of overlap for consistency, but it's definitely a completely different environment. Play some birds.
Oh, right. Yeah, so basically that's what an alba bird sounds like, but if you pitch them down and you kind of fool around with it, they actually sound really creepy. They sound more kind of like...
Again, they sound like nothing.
They sound like...
It sounds actually soothing silence.
Sounds like meditation.
Really?
Yeah, the mic must just not be picking up.
Are you a professional sound designer? Just real quick.
1 second. Here you go. Hold on.
Oh,
sweet.
Yeah. Cut that.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
So that was an alba bird, just like pitched down and sort of...
Play the original again, because I don't think we heard the original. Also creepy,
oh my
but...
God.
Yeah, and you can even do it with... we even did it with like non-animal kind of sounds, and then you can get an animal sound from a non-animal sound. So I guess what I mean by that, we did this for actually the crypts, is that we wanted to make kind of like weird sort of unknown monster calls. So we got these everyday sounds of like rocks. Do you hear that?
Barely, just like a little gravelly ruffle.
Mm.
Yeah, I heard that.
Oh.
So that's just like gravel, just going down a slope, and then if you pitch it down and fool around with the verb of it, it actually kind of sounds like a monster.
It totally does.
Yeah. So it's a lot of experimentation on our end, and it's really fun to do it really late at night.
Cool. You got to take me off speakers though. I'm repeating again.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, turn down your speakers.
There you go.
Crazy. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I'm excited to get the ambiences hooked up. Or I know at one point some of them I thought were getting hooked up, but I don't.
The crypts or the ruins has a whole bunch of the new ambiences.
Yeah.
A lot of the new
ruins
character classes are.
It has a lot of kind of our older ambiences though, but we figured once we put them in and we played them back, they weren't scary enough.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided we're taking them back to the old drawing board. We're going to put new ones in actually probably as early as tonight and see how they sound.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you guys are kind of on the front lines of the scary stuff as far as the game goes. Like, we've been spending so much time just making it a game that you lose sight of kind of like the horror immersion quality, which, I mean, we're going to circle back to it, but as far as like a focal point goes, we've been kind of just system building. And you guys are kind of, breaking ground on the creepy overall takeaway, which is exciting.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like, I'm a big fan of horror, as you guys know, of horror movies and just literature and stuff. I mean, even in the Weald, I believe it's run by witches, Chris. Is that sort of the idea?
Yeah, like witches and fungal abnormalities.
Yeah, we want to try and find maybe like some samples of this. We actually recorded it. It was samples of this Lovecraftian language. I don't even really know how to pronounce it, but
I
it's
think that's the
called
whole point.
really. Yeah. I think that's how I'm just gonna put it.
Wayne
down
June calls it Roulier. That's how he says the city. That's the name of the city that they live in.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, really?
So Roulier? I don't know. Doesn't
Yeah,
really
so
roll off the tongue.
I just
Doesn't
put it
roll off
down.
the human tongue.
And
And lots of F's and PH's and G's.
Yeah.
and apostrophes after every Y.
Oh yeah, they're good.
Yeah, so what we kind of did is we got one of our designers, Joey, actually went right up to the mic and started saying, he actually wrote down some sentences in that language, and then he recorded himself, and we all processed it, and now that's kind of part of the Weald.
Oh, no way, can you play those?
You hear it kind of in the background. Yeah, give me a second to find it.
Sure.
But it's like, yeah, it's like super, it's super processed, so it sounds really whispery.
That's cool.
But we want to be able to, we want like the very few, hardcore Lovecraftian guys who are playing the game to really listen and be like, that sounds like
Yeah.
babies or something,
They consult their lexicons and realize there's a secret message, like a Beatles
Yeah,
album.
exactly. Yeah, it's like Sgt. Pepper's. This is Sgt. Pepper's, pretty much.
Think Tank, the random room elements that I'm doing right now are purely cosmetic. The interaction stuff is governed by, like, we call them curios. Those are the kinds of things that you like find and click on and interact with. And what I'm doing right here today is purely for like set decks, so that you feel like you're in a forest and you feel like there's a decent amount of diversity in the rooms and that kind of thing. We'll roll out some more stuff on curios a little later. But yeah, we are gonna have like secret doors and secret loot and secret secrets.
Sneaky Pie Brown is asking how the effects are coming along, Chris.
Good actually. Brooks isn't joining us today, but yeah, we've been going back and forth, and we've got the Hellion has all her pack skills, so 4 out of the 7 are done. The Grave Robber has got some pretty cool stuff. Even the first passes went pretty quick, so we're pretty optimistic. The effects in our game are kind of like, they aren't particles. We're not using like Unity or anything that has like a 3D kind of vibe to it. It's really like this flat 2D board game kind of style of effect, but we're getting them done. I think they look pretty good and definitely match the rest of the game. So
Yeah, I saw one of the occultist skills in today, and it looked rad.
Oh, that the curse? Yeah, the curse looks good. He has another one, Abyssal Artillery, which like he basically calls down things from the void, and we have these big crazy tentacles that reach down over the screen, which should be pretty cool. But it's a lot more work than some of the other ones, so I think Brooks was like, yeah, I'll totes get to it this weekend.
Yeah, he's just like plowing through all the animations and effects, and it's like each of us are kind of doing different things right now. Like he's doing just content, and then you're doing content right now, but then there's always a mix of like, content is what we call it when it's just like, okay, we've got 80 monsters to make, we got to make them, and then other stuff is like, oh, we need to figure out how this system works, or what happens when you do this sort of thing. So we're kind of doing a mix, and then I think we mentioned last week, but yeah, we're going to be at PAX Prime here into this month in Seattle, so that's going to be really fun. So now we're having to get ready for that too. There's a lot of preparation for that, and then getting the build to a point where it's showable again. So we're well on track for that, so that'll be good.
Yeah, it's funny, like we had a showable build for PAX East, and then you get home and you rip it all apart and start making ground on some new features, and then another show rolls around and you gotta sort of tighten it all back up again.
Yeah. It's cool. Yeah, and then Kier, our normal The Question Bus driver, is he had a friend who's getting married, and it's just like this 2-week long thing of like 3 days of stag party events, mostly involving board games and driving go-karts, and then it's like rehearsal and the wedding. It's just been funny. Like every day he's got a new update of an activity that's going on. So he wasn't able to join us today, but I think Jeff, you're doing good at driving the question bus.
we have one from Lot Spread, which I think is actually kind of an interesting question. Are there key curios that unleash really specific events, but only if we have that key item? Or all curios kind of have the same purpose?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, they all do different things, but right now they're like, yeah, they're things you can either choose to interact with, or sometimes your dudes will interact with them. But yeah, as we get more specific with like quest types, then there will be some that fulfill roles. Like, I mean, I'm going to use something really generic, but like, oh, you need to find these 3 things before it unlocks this thing, so you can fight the boss or something like that.
And we also can modify the curios, right, with items.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we're doing some crazy stuff where like, oh, put holy water on a corrupted altar and it might purify it, or it might blow it up, you know, that kind of stuff. So.
Oh wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we want you to interact with, at least the way we're designing them is, like, you carry a certain amount of supplies into the dungeon, which take up inventory room, and so we want you to, like, some of those supplies will interact with different curios, and we want you to experiment and figure that out, and that's the kind of stuff, you know, we want to see people talking about online, and it's like, I mean, maybe not, like, if you know the Heraldric Cube from Diablo 2, that kind of stuff. It's not like we're doing an in-depth crafting system or anything like that, but there will be stuff that we don't obviously point out. You know, like, oh, I didn't know I could use the medicinal herbs on that thing, and it does this effect or whatever. So
there's a lot of experimentation that's encouraged in your game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in that capacity for sure. And it might be something like, you know, you have a shovel and you know you can clear like a cave-in with it. But you are tempted to try and use it on this like altar or something, and maybe it opens up a secret door or whatever. I'm totally just off the top of my head. But then you won't have it later when you know you are confronted with a cave-in. So it's kind of like where you want to actually use these resources that you brought into the dungeon with you. Kind of makes for some interesting strategy, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a mix between, like, you know, combat's really important, what you're doing in town, but we want you to have some poking around, kind of like classic roguelike fashion, where you'll find props or traps and have to interact with them a little bit. And so between, you know, and curios are kind of represent, they can be hazardous, or that might be a source for loot, or it might be a way to give yourself a cool quirk or buff, or it might be a way to take a quirk away, or, you know, that kind of stuff. But in the interest, or kind of in the theme of Darkest Dungeon, of course, a lot of horrible stuff happens. So, you know, you mess around with stuff, sometimes your dudes end up getting horrible sicknesses and things, but that's kind of the fun of the game.
Yeah, it's kind of like don't be a horse's ass. Like, if you're almost dead, don't interact with the, like, blood ritual effigy, you know, if your guy's really stressed out. Like, just don't do it. Why would you do that? Like, you wouldn't do it in real life. You'd be scared of it. So you're asking for trouble. And we're more than happy to give you grief for that choice.
Yeah, when I do my playthroughs of Dungeon, I don't touch any of the curios. I actually don't, because I used to a bunch, and then there was like a run where every time I touched it for like the next 10 times, I just like got sliced, or I got stressed and afflicted, and now I just don't touch them.
I know, and that's actually something we're working on specifically because right now I think they feel like a grab bag of, you know, just like what may happen. And what we want them to be like is that you learn the individual ones and what they'll do, and then you have some control over it. Like, you'll be like, okay, well, I know that thing is going to do that or that, and right now I don't want that. But then, you know, a really key part of the game is that sometimes you guys are afflicted or have quirks, and so, like, you may pass a corrupted fountain and try to just go by it, but if one of your dudes has irrational thirst, he's going to stop and go, what's this? And I'm going to have a sip. And so, you know, that is like...
that's
so
the
even
game
the stuff,
in a nutshell.
Yeah, and even then the stuff that you know is bad, I mean, that's the point, is like your characters might not know it's bad, and sometimes we're going to mess with you that way. And it kind of brings up an interesting thing, like sometimes while playing, even for us, you know, the game's going to be hard, and it's going to be pretty brutal, and dudes are going to die, and You know, I wonder sometimes if the audience will really, you know, be ready for that. But what do you guys in the chat think? I mean, you're some of our diehard fans. I mean, it's not going to be it's not your mother's RPG, you know, where you get to reload the save game every time a guy dies and that kind of stuff. I mean, we want you to feel a sense of accomplishment just from survival, but balancing that with, you know, we also don't want to be
gamer fury. Yeah.
Well, we don't want to just be like, here's a dialogue box that told you died. You know, it's got to be more like, oh, I saw that fountain and I tried to pass it, but then his thirst triggered and then he drank and it, you know, whatever. He was already at 1 hit point and that killed him. And, you know, it has to be stuff where there's some little bit of involvement.
But yeah,
that's oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say you should be prepared to lose, like, you know, a guy you've upgraded his gear and you've got some cool stuff on him and he's kind of one of your go-to guys. You should be ready to retreat or lose anyone at any time, even if you're like, oh, I'll just do this real quick mission real quick. It might go sideways all of a sudden. And I think, like, for me playing it, there's a lot of stuff that isn't in the game yet that I, you know, am looking forward to getting in there, but already I'm kind of like, when I play it for realsies and I can't afford to do everything by cheating and giving myself all this gold, I get really kind of worried, even on the combat with, like, the basic skeletons, because I'm like, even if my guys don't die here, they're going to be so messed up that they might die right after this, or, you know, so it creates a good amount of tension, I think.
Yeah, and when, like, I was playing it just, well, recently, haha, but one thing I did is, like, okay, I realized my dudes were not going to make it through the mission, but I wanted to keep them alive because, you know, I'm cultivating that party, and so I retreated, and that was kind of cool because I mean, that's the way it's designed to be sometimes. It's like, okay, well, right now if I retreat, they're going to be alive, but I get to keep some of the loot that I gathered. And I actually found it kind of interesting, but, you know, that's kind of by design. But it'll be interesting to see if people, like, that's very different from most games. Like, most games are kind of built like you succeed or you fail. And in here, we want you to get a sense of accomplishment from succeeding. So I think sometimes realizing that this run has just gone horribly and I'm going to retreat now. And there was one combat actually where when someone was down to like 2 hit points, the Hellion, I think, and I was like, you know what, I'll be able to get through. There's you know, I'll kill these guys, I'll get their loot, and then I'm going to retreat. And then she got death doored and then killed. And then I was like, well, that was my fault. I could have retreated the round before. And I limped back to town with my 3 guys. Oh, no, actually what I did is I kept pressing forward. I was like, well, as long as she's dead and the other 3 are doing okay, maybe I'll go forward a little more. Get a little bit more loot.
You are a terrible player.
Yeah, that's the point I was gonna make as well, is that, like, it's not, you know, Tyler's absolutely right. It's not like, you know, when somebody dies, you can just give him a phoenix down or something and he's just back alive. And it's so non-consequential like that. Like, I find that Dungeon really hits the roguelike element kind of to the point where you question your own morality, like what kind of person you are. Because I like that. I mean, that's the reason why I don't touch curios, because, like, in real life I am like a bit of a pussy, right? So, like, that's me. So, like, I don't touch them in the game because I get scared by them. And, like, even when, you know, somebody is like almost dead and I use them as, like, you know, just like put them right in the front lines, even though, like, it's the Vestal, for example, and I know that she doesn't have any reason to be in the front line other than just to be a meat shield. Just a meat shield for me. Like, it does actually make me feel kind of bad inside. So I do like how you kind of have that, your own personal stress coming along with the characters that you play in the game.
The other day, Tyler was talking about balancing the bosses, and he's like, you know, I think we need to balance the bosses for, like, 3 characters to fight. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's a 4-party. Have you not been working on this game? And he's like, yeah, but if we balance it for 4 guys who are full health, no one's ever getting to the boss in that condition. And then it'll be way too hard. I was like, yeah, it's actually...
Oh, that is true.
Yeah, like... Because we would have failed at our jobs if you're showing up at the boss's door like, what's up? You know?
Yeah, just full
your
health.
CSI sunglasses on.
So you're on a big mushroom kick this week, huh, Chris?
I'm whatever Gotham needs me to be. I wasn't like really looking forward to drawing 100 mushrooms, but that's what we need for the forest. So my plan is I'm trying to make these. I'm trying to think of it in layers, right? So like instead of trying to draw like every room as a start from scratch, oh my god, what am I going to do? I'm like, okay, I'll do foreground things. It could be trees, could be mushrooms, could be a ruined wall or something, whatever. I'll do 3 of them, let's say, 3 times. Then I'm going to have these little spot guys that are I can pepper around in the midground, like the other stuff I was showing earlier, and then I'll do some kind of like background thing and maybe do 3 of those. And if I have 6 of those, that's a lot of combinations. And then I light them all differently and paint them all differently with different colors. So it's not like I'm just phoning it in. But I'm making it possible to succeed. So like one of them I had, let's see if I can give out. I mocked it up really quick.
Cool.
Nice.
See the flashes. But you are right, it's a mushroom kick. Every time I look over, it's like they're drawing a mushroom monster, they're animating mushroom stuff, they're putting funguses on everything. I'm like, this fungus phase needs
So yeah, like I could do this for a room. Like this has got some good building blocks. You know, it's pretty symmetrical, but you know, whatever. Maybe this is just this kind of room. And then I can keep the trees on the sides, lose the shrooms, ditch the backdrop, and throw a cabin in there. And I'm like, okay, sweet. You know.
Oh, cool.
Like that. So that way, and then maybe I have the cabin. I flip it to the other side. I bury it in mushrooms. Ta-da! So I'm basically, it's self-preservation is motivating me to try and be a little clever so that I can deliver like a good amount of content and keep things like interesting in the background without sinking like hours and hours and hours, because really the payoff is more with different kinds of monsters, because this is just set decoration, but it's still got to be there. It's still got to feel cool to like walk around this place and feel like you found a different type of room that you didn't see before. So it's kind of a tricky thing to figure out how much time to put against it.
Yeah, our game's different than, like, it's more similar to old school RPGs, but, you know, in games where there's a 2D or 3D exploration element, I mean, we have an exploration element, but what I mean is everything's presented in, well, 1D isn't fair, but you know what I mean? Like, we're seeing the dudes in the hallway, we're seeing them in the room, and you don't, like, wander around the room or whatever. And so, yeah, getting that sense of, like, presence is a different challenge than I think a lot of games, like they rely on a tile set. They're just like, oh, okay. Like if it's a top-down 2D RPG, yeah, it's just like, oh, we have the tile set, we can construct rooms and hedges and farms and buildings and, you know, with this tile set. And then of course if it's 3D, then whatever, it's different. So yeah, it's like even NetHack or something. Because the rooms have different shapes or whatever, you're kind of like exploring and the widen, you know, watching the map reveal is part of the experience. But in this case, yeah, these visuals are cool because they just sort of transport you to it, but you're not thinking of it in a physicality quite the same way.
Yeah, it's almost like an old movie.
Got a question from Think Tank here. It was kind of answered, but maybe Chris, you can elaborate. So the backdrop is what defines what the room is. For example, each backdrop is a distinct room like ballroom or library.
There's going to be rooms like that, yes. Like the cabin would be like a set piece thing, like that crypt I showed, let's say, would be a set piece room. If you want to talk about the ruined castle, like, yeah, I'll have like a big staircase with the, you know, with the banister coming down and dead people everywhere or whatever, and torches, and the guys are standing here. Those are kind of more like the set piece stuff that I'm talking about. But then we also need just like some rooms to just fill up the tile set, and they can't all be the same background because that's super ghetto. So yeah, I don't know if that really makes sense, but basically imagine it like we have like regular rooms and set piece rooms, and we just need enough variety in the regular rooms to make it feel like you're kind of moving through an environment and create that illusion. But then because we're an art team of one, I just have to be smart about where I spend my time.
Yeah.
You're giving me grief about all the mushroom stuff. I spent like 3 weeks drawing pigs, man. Like, it's not a walk in the park.
Yeah.
Like, those are among the least interesting. Like, I don't want to draw pigs and mushrooms. I hate the way mushrooms taste, and I don't like the look of pigs. I'd rather be drawing like anything. But yeah, that's what we need.
I get you.
It's really weird though, coming from like a bigger studio to the indie thing. I'm like, yeah, we should do this, that, and the other thing, and then you look around and you realize that there's no one else in the meeting with you. And it's just you in your underwear in a room making more work for yourself. Like,
yeah. I know it
sounds great, guys. Let's fucking add it to Trello.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, we should do a system where we can have all these, different types. And then I'm like, oh man, I can't pawn this off on a junior designer anymore. There were nice advantages of the old, like, all right, guys, go do this and come back and I'll take a look at it. And now, yeah, that means I go out and do it, and then I come back and present it to myself for review. And then when I am unhappy with it, then I have to go.
And then you have to talk to yourself because you're behind, and you have to follow up with yourself because you're the project manager.
Right. And then every once in a while you want to do the old like project manager thing of just say it's crap once just to try to get them to do their best work. Like, evidently that's something Steve Jobs would do occasionally, is just go like, he would just reject the first thing without even looking at it, just on the assumption that when someone goes back to do it again, it'll be better. Which I always thought was like super underhanded but funny. So yeah, that doesn't work as well when it's just you.
But even Tyler, you being sort of the main designer and Chris being the main artist, you guys are still able to bounce ideas off each other, right?
Oh yeah, like
that's the best part about it. Like, I don't know. I really like doing. I don't like doing the kind of game design that Tyler does. The part that actually makes the game fun. But I like talking about like the big systems and how all the big pieces kind of interact. And so on a tiny team, you get to do that. And I try to solicit Tyler's opinion about the art as often as possible too.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. I mean, being involved with, I came from aerospace, and I liken it to, it's like you can work at Boeing and work on, the Station 52 rib.
Like we all dream of.
Yeah, but it's way more fun to, like, hey, today we're talking about the wing, today we're talking about the landing gear, and tomorrow we're talking about the tail, And with the game, I mean, I think that's one of the big motivators for a lot of people going to indie is, like, there are people, surprisingly, that are quite happy just to do their little thing, and they don't really want to be bothered by all the other parts, but I think, certainly...
Those people are not us.
Yeah, it's fun to be involved with the whole thing. Hey, there was a question earlier from RevRox about balancing that I thought I would address. Let me look at it again. It was basically just how hard is it to balance, I think, in the current state.
Oh, right, yeah. I had that one on queue.
Oh, did you? Well, sorry, I jumped the queue.
Kier would actually give you legitimate shit for that.
How hard is it to balance the game with the current content?
Oh, thanks for that question, Jeff. Let me tell you. No, I'm just kidding.
Red Rocks.
Yeah, balancing is really interesting. I find like what I'm doing right now is basically setting up the tools and spreadsheets and things to be able to get good first passes in. And then that'll be kind of like validated later with playtest data. So, and right now, like we're not spending a lot of time on balance. It's kind of like I'm doing just enough to feel like it's rough order of magnitude. Like, okay, a dude should have about that many hit points, and then I kind of do some calculations and things. But later on, what I expect to do is expand those calculations within the spreadsheet, because there's a lot of stuff you can do up front. Like you can kind of, to some degree, mathematically model a combat and figure out, like, about what things should be, and you kind of set some ranges. Like there's a lot of just going like, okay, like I said with hit points, you might go, let's make it so the smallest enemy has 5 hit points and the toughest enemy has 100, or whatever your scale is. And then you just start building off from there. And then you observe, but it can be really dangerous just to, like, you play it a bit yourself and watch people playing. That's really, you can get a bit of information, but in a game like this, it's going to get complex enough that what we plan on doing is hooking up some telemetry eventually, so that when we say go to early access, then I can get a bunch of data back. So like one thing, for example, I'll do is we'll hook up some telemetry for every time a skill is purchased or upgraded. And then then I can kind of infer things like, if I see, oh, nobody's buying this camping skill at all, then I know it has a problem. And it might be a balance problem, or it might be like it doesn't sound cool enough, or there's too many
marketing problem.
Yeah, seriously, you do have to, like, it's funny because in mobile games right now, the big thing is data, like collect data, collect so much data. But all data will tell you is kind of whether you have a problem. It won't tell you how to fix it. So you always still need some good like design sense to, like if you're not getting the result. Like if we found out no one ever recruits Crusaders or whatever, it could be because it's not an interesting class, or it might be it's underpowered compared to the other classes. So, so balance is always like a big subject. But right now the goal is to get rough order of magnitude so that the play, like when we play, it's representative, and we do that with the economy too. Like, try to get the gold about what we think maybe makes sense. And then if you find, oh my God, like every time I get back to town, I have so much gold, then I know to tweak costs or drop the loot rates or whatever. And so it's a lot of iteration that then you use a mix of like horse sense, spreadsheeting, and then eventually, yeah, data collection.
It'll be cool. So I think somebody commented that it'll be cool to try and Think Tank said it would be fun to try and break everything in early access, and Depression Core said that early access should help a lot with balance, and I totally agree. That's one of the exciting things about early access, is seeing like which class is most popular, which abilities get triggered more often, like are people constantly broke, are they too rich, and I kind of like, because I played so many MMOs and I've been to MMO forums, which are hostile environments towards developers a lot of the times, but I'm looking forward to people like, you have to nerf Shadow Fade, it's bullshit. Like, I've always wanted someone to, I always wanted to catch that kind of flack for a game I made, because it shows that the person is so passionate about, like, you know, what's going on in the game.
Yeah.
in a good way. I don't actually want to get like hardcore in trouble from people because they're mad about not being able to recruit Crusaders or something, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a different world now because, I mean, the chance to actually collect data, I mean, like, it wasn't very long ago, I don't know, like when I did Age of Empires for DS, it's like, that's burned on a cartridge, like a physical cartridge. And I mean, you're just like, oh my God, the stress of like picking your final numbers before you basically go and lock it and go to print is crazy, because, you know, there was no, I mean, this was like 2004 or 5 or something, which is crazy because that's 10 years ago, but it's not that long ago. And yeah, you just have to, you like guess and collect some data and just try to get it as close, and then that's done. You can't like patch a physical cart, you know? And, I love this new world where, I mean, I guess it's
a waffler's dream.
It could allow you to be lazier, but I think what I think of it more is it allows you to get it right, because we can redeploy to Steam quickly, and we can collect data, and we can see what people are doing, and we can fix things, and so. And
I mean, yeah, it's cool to just get that interaction right with people. So
yeah.
See how people are playing the game, and then adjust the game based on how we observe they're playing it, so it stays kind of fresh and interesting for the players as well. Totally. Someone was asking about how graphic things were going to be a little while back. I don't know, Jeff, did you grab that?
No, I didn't actually grab that one. No.
I think you'll need a 128 gigabyte graphics card.
Well, I think it meant in terms of like maturity rating.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding. I mean, I think rating wise, if we get a rating, like should we come to console and things like that, because we don't actually need a rating since we're publishing ourselves. I don't think we need a rating on Steam, but eventually we'll come to other platforms for sure.
We're rated DGF for don't give a. Yeah.
I mean,
there's gonna be blood. There's gonna be blood. There was almost nudity. Like, where appropriate. Like, I don't know if anybody in the chat has read like The Marquee by Guy Davis, but like his demons are horrific. They're like genitalia all mangled up, and like, but they're awesome. Like, just really gothic stuff. So I don't. That's the tone of the game. Because it's got a little bit of that cuteness. I don't think like cock and balls are necessarily appropriate all over the place, but I just don't want to think about it. I just want to draw what I feel like matches the tone of the world. And yeah, we've got blood splats, and we've got crawling pig corpses, and you know, hang on here.
Sorry.
Explicit drug use with the mushrooms.
Clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would probably end up being an M-rated game, not because of crazy titillation. It's just like the things we'd have to do to safely make it a T game, I think would rob some of the...
So, like, this happens. His attack is to vomit body parts on you.
Yeah.
You know, that is going to occur. And I just don't want to think about it. I don't want to be like, oh, well, you know, if we turn the blood green, then we can... come on. It's not horror if it's, like, safe, right? So I want to push it a little bit, but not for its own sake. Like, we're not trying to make the hostile the game, you know?
Yeah, like, I don't think that the violence in this game is gratuitous in the sense of, like, you know, the Saw movies are, where they just do it just to be shocking.
Like
I think that there's a lot of artistry, you know, in like the horror. And I actually think the scariest part, or the most mature part that would earn this an M rating if it ever went to consoles, would just be the ideas that you know, like the story and just like the idea of going to like the dungeon and seeing all these horror terrible things, right? So
yeah, I mean, the theme is almost itself, like you said, like the most mature thing about the game. And I mean, we've kind of ironed out where we want the story to go at this point, and I just don't think kids will get it. Like,
oh, no.
A 13-year-old might be like, okay, cool, that was a fun game to play, which is great. But like a 10-year-old, if they ever got their hands on this, not only would it be inappropriate, but they would just be like, I don't really, like, why, what?
Yeah.
And that's not because of some literary stroke of brilliance. It's just like we're trying to deal with these abstract concepts of horror and fear, and I don't think that it lands, you know, when your biggest stress in life is, can you get to the mall by 3 o'clock? When's the last time you were in Metrotown, by the way, Jeff?
Pardon me?
When's the last time you were in Metrotown, by the way?
Oh, 1999.
I thought you were going to say, like, Tuesday.
Tuesday, to buy a new blank hat so I can draw on my hat.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah,
we do have brothels and taverns.
Alejoro Hash? I don't know, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. He has a request, Chris. I don't know if you can fulfill it. Can we have some more images about the skeleton lady with the fan that covers a huge worm in her mouth?
Oh, shit, yeah. I don't even think she's in the game anymore. Don't hate, but maybe we'll bring her back. I don't know. That was just a sketch.
What? I don't even know about this.
It was like a boss idea. She was supposed to be like sort of, you know, the queen. She's like, oh, check it out. Here's the worm woman. We had this other like eviscerated, corrupted like bishop. I think it's still cool, but we're trying to avoid.
That's so cool. That's totally like Mask of the Red Death style too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's so sick.
And I found that if you put people inside people, it's pretty gross. So I was just gonna put people inside his guts and be like, "Hey, who are you? I don't know." Just.
I've been noticing that a lot, Chris. I think we kind of touched upon it briefly. Is that you have this thing where you impregnate your enemies. Like you do it with the slimes as well, because the slimes that have like the dudes that are inside, and like the pig people have like skulls coming out of their stomachs and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's that ectoplasm stuff?
Ever since he fell in love with Quado, he's just never been the same.
Where are the... Yeah, so the double slime has, like, 2 guys in it floating around, and then the single slime is, like, 1 guy. But the reason for that was so that, like...
There we go.
Yeah, like, the slime is... uses like it's like ectoplasm, so it like keeps the solid crap and glue around the body and kind of uses it to keep itself upright or whatever.
That's rad. No, we definitely got to go. We got to use that those other 2 monsters. She would be a cool boss. Just yeah, we'll figure it out.
Bonus boss. Yeah, it's real. But going back to the other thing about having the meeting with just yourself, like that's exactly it. Like I can talk myself into wanting to have that boss. There's no problem. There, I just did it. It's done. I want to have the boss. But like now, I got to find time to do it. And I'm so busy with mushrooms.
I know. It's like Gotta draw more mushrooms.
Yeah, I know this is pretty dry as far as like an entertainment thing for you guys, just watching me noodle in black and white on mushrooms, but I've said it before, like part of the thing about signing up to do a weekly stream is that we can't turn it into a dog and pony show. We have to just sort of make progress and show you exactly what it is that needs doing at the time that we're doing it. Next week though, I'd hope to get some animation, maybe show off some effects or something, and just change it up, because I've done the drawing for the last couple of streams. So thanks for bearing with us.
How far along are you in the environments in general, Chris?
Well, you've been watching the stream. They've taken a back seat to everything else. Like, we just have so many monsters done. So hang on here. I want to be able to show stuff without showing stuff.
I know. There's stuff we don't want to show.
Yeah. So, like, I've got like hallway strips for 3 of the levels, the early access levels. They're not finished. They look finished in this one maybe because it's actually just a preview image. It's shrunk down.
Yeah.
But this is the Warrens up top. It's like super green, and I was trying to mess with the colors. So instead of like, you know, the forest being green, I was just trying to play around. So the Warrens were all sludgy and sewery. The forest has kind of got this like fall dying kind of vibe. And then the crypts we've probably seen the most. And they're the least interesting as far as hallways go, so I have to double back and punch them up a little bit, because these guys have a lot more going on as far as visual interest. This is pretty empty. This is the first ones I did. This is like the cove was going to be these undersea caves with like Tibetan kind of temples, but that's been scrapped, so it doesn't look like that anymore. And then below that is a first pass of the Darkest Dungeon that we're not going to show. Good. It's not even going to look like this anyway, what I have down here. Because we changed it based on the story. But yeah, so the hallways are there, and then I have like one sample room for each of the environments, and then so this is the first, like, I'm actually settling in and trying to blow out the forest and get like an accurate early access scope level of content done for the forest in the next week.
What's the deal with the cabin in the forest? Is there any story behind that? Or you just wanted to draw a house?
Well, the bosses, like one of the bosses in the forest is like a hag. So I thought it would be cool if the herd level was like your outside herd, like shitty house. Kind of get that bayou kind of vibe going.
Cool. Yeah, maybe we'll tie in some of that language to that hag. Because what we can do, I guess I can talk about this a little bit, kind of on the sound side, is that kind of everybody has an idea of what the torch is. So if you have a full torch, things are going great, you can see things really well. And in the ambient side of things for sound, you can actually, you kind of hear just like the normal things you'd hear in a crazy, scary-ass forest. But what we do, we use a middleware, sorry?
Yeah, in your normal run-of-the-mill, corrupted, eldritch-infested, walking fungi-infested forest.
Like your in-laws. Yeah, it's just another Sunday dinner with the in-laws.
Like weird birds singing backwards and 2 octaves lower.
Yeah, actually, that's what happens. That we actually have kind of like normal birds, crickets, you know, like kind of bush rustling or whatever. It's still really creepy, but it's what I call like the Carnival Funhouse kind of creepy, right? And we use a middleware program called Fmod, and Fmod allows sort of the sound designers to get a more programmatic sort of swing of things into implementing their audio using a very intuitive interface. So what we did is that as your torch goes down and your torch gets dimmer, it gets a lot scarier. So what we do is that we actually have designed for the Weald, for example, we've designed 2 ambiences. One's like the normal tra-la-la, we're going to go see our in-laws in the scary-ass forest. And the second ambience is like, it's a lot kind of like darker with like more hollow winds. We do a lot scarier processing. And as it goes deeper and deeper to darkness, we kind of trigger that ambience to come out more. So that's when you actually start hearing those pitched down birds. So you'll start hearing normal birds kind of in the beginning, but
well, that's cool.
The longer you stay in, then the crazier you get. We've actually adjusted a parameter in Fmod for the ambiences to go into the darker darker one-shots and the darker bases that we designed. And I think that would be kind of cool if we attached a parameter to the map, like so you, even though the player doesn't know where the boss is and the map, if we had a parameter that kind of would know where that boss was, the closer you got to maybe, you know, the hag, maybe the more you'd hear her in the background and maybe she gets louder.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, so it's really cool things that you can do sort of with Fmod. Thank you, Firelight Studios. I'll be picking up my check next week.
Swear to God, you work for them.
I know.
I really love Fmod. It's just so cool because instead of, you know, if there's any programmers kind of like out there, or if you've ever tried to work on a game, if you work with an audio designer, if you do all your sound effects your own, pretty much if there is an action on screen, you hook up a sound to it, a WAV file, an MP3, or an OGG. But with Fmod, you hook up an event, and in the event, you can set your parameters. You can set, you know, your volume, your roll-off distance, your reverb, everything. So we literally give our events to Red Hook, and Red Hook would hook them up, and then they would just play to whatever we specified. So it gives us total creative control.
You can kind of tweak and play with it and rebalance stuff without having to constantly feed us new sounds that we have to load in. And
the pipeline is so much better because, yeah, I mean, even before we decided to go with Fmod, if you guys remember, with the PAX East build, we would give you something and it would be too loud, and we'd either have to get somebody on your side to lower it, be like, lower it like 20%, whatever that means, right? Or we'd have to re-export the asset and give it to you at a lower sound. And that was always such a pain. But in Fmod, you're actually able to play the game and mix on the fly.
That's cool.
Which is really good for us.
Yeah, there's a general rule of, I think, creation where more iteration generally results in higher quality, and so anything that allows people to do their job repeatedly in a shorter amount of time usually gets better. Because, yeah, I know, like, on past games there's been times like, okay, here's the list of sounds that are too quiet, and here these ones are too loud, and, you know, and then, oh, we've got to do a new drop, and then change things in the engine or whatever. It's silly sometimes, like, how much work it can be to do something fairly little.
Yeah, the pipeline is so much more streamlined, which I really like, and it allows us to do really cool things without having to like sit down with a programmer for like hours on end and be like, no, we want, you know, this voice to get louder the closer you are to the hag, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Cool. What other? So we got 10 minutes left. What other questions that have built up? How's the question bus?
Can characters make comments at the sound cues? I'm not exactly sure.
No, but they would be making comments based on the event that spawned the sound change. So, like, if the torch hits 0, they say, "It's pretty fucking dark, I'm really scared." And then also the sound is doing its own thing. So they're kind of probably pulling from the same, you know, event, I guess.
Yeah, I think for now the creative decision for us is to not give the heroes an individual voice yet. I personally don't think that it's really a good call to give each hero a voice.
Oh, is that what he was saying? I thought he meant, like, will they bark? Like, issue the little barks? Because, yeah, no way are they going to actually have a voice. That's crazy.
Yeah.
We'd have to do a Kickstarter to get money to do voices.
Or they're all just going to sound like us three.
Yeah.
We could do another Kickstarter campaign of put voices in the darkest dungeon. I'm sure that would be really popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, no voices for the character, for the heroes, for sure. I think creatively it just works better overall as well.
I agree. More timeless, right? Like,
exactly.
Then you don't have to worry about an acting performance. Like, if the acting performance is not up to snuff, then it really undermines even having the voice in the first place. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. People are going to be looking at the characters so differently. It's not like a set character from, like, you know, a JRPG, right, where they always have.
Yeah, and we want you to, like, relate and project yourself and your own story onto these characters, so I don't want them to sound like something specific. I think that makes them into, like, individuals as opposed to archetypes.
Right. The enemies, though, the enemies will definitely have kind of like their own voices. They won't be saying any English or anything, but they will be. We will be giving them voices to give them some life. Like all of the skeletons in the crypts are actually alligators, and we just kind of pitch shift and just warp those alligator sounds, like the hisses around, and
cool,
coming out pretty well.
No, that's
yeah, Wayne's gonna narrate. We just sent off like very small, like maybe 20 lines to him, just to get the system up and running. Because part of it is we don't know. We have to be careful. We don't want the characters barking about the same things that Wayne talks about. So, because then it's like it's redundant, and then you're trying to listen and read at the same time. So we're trying to figure out that balance, and the best way to do it is just get sort of like a small sampling of lines from him, play with it, see how it feels, and then from there figure out like a complete list. But yes, Wayne is going to narrate.
Wayne's really important for setting our mood, and I think it should be really cool. It's going to be good. I mean, you guys obviously probably liked the trailers, and so we didn't want that to be purely just like a marketing. Oh, look, we made a fancy trailer. We want you to feel the same things. And then
he's the same guy too. Like the guy from the House of Ruin trailer. Like that's his character in the game. Like he's with you. He's your ancestor. He's going to be sort of talking to you about what's going on and guiding you through the story and that kind of thing. Yeah,
and then Alero Josh. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
Jays. I don't know if the Jays are like Spanish Jays or. But anyway, we've been actually, one thing you guys might like to hear is we've been spending a bunch of time and effort on fleshing out the classes and kind of how they talk and things like that. Because you've seen a bit in probably the streams or the demos that we've released, the videos that we've released, but. Like if the Highwayman becomes depressed, we want him to say different things than if the Crusader's depressed. And that's been, we made a system that's pretty flexible with that, and we've been writing a bunch of lines for that kind of stuff. So that should be a pretty cool part, I think, of the experience is like, okay, seeing what happens when the Plague Doctor becomes abusive, and that's something we really enjoy doing and seeing ourselves, and so I'm sure you guys will like it too.
It's awesome because it gives us a chance to like provide a little bit of backstory for the class without hitting you over the head with it. So like the Plague Doctor, when she gets afflicted, starts making reference to how no one understands her research, and there were fools at the university and all this stuff, and like classic like kind of horror stuff. But it's not so specific that it becomes limiting. It just kind of applies to the class in general, so it's cool.
You guys have like a... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it definitely reinforces that it's a different class talking.
I was about to say that you guys even have a bit of fan fiction going on, fan art, fan fiction, even before the release of your game. So are you kind of taking some inspiration from that as well when thinking of characterizing the heroes?
You know what? I don't know if I'd say that, and not because of any quality issue. We really like the fan activity going on, and we want to encourage more of that. I mean, we'd like to see all kinds of stuff. Like Twitchblade's got that awesome series that he's been writing, and but we obviously take inspiration in everything that we see and do, and when good ideas cross in front of us, we'll incorporate them.
Steal them.
But I think it's more a matter of like we've been able to set a tone. Like that's one thing I think that I'm trying to think of how to word it. Like we haven't really had problems trying to set the tone.
Right.
It's been something that's evolved over the years of talking that we had before we even started this project. And then Chris has done a great job creative direction wise and establishing that. And so it doesn't feel like a lot of work whenever we finally have a moment to sit down and say, what's the bounty hunter like? It's more just like finding the time to do it. But we'd love to see the fan creations, and we definitely take inspiration from seeing other people get excited too, and seeing what you guys respond to, is big. Like, we've seen this on the art and the classes and everything. It's just like it's validating to see what you guys get excited about, because then we say, okay, we're on a good track there, and we want to do more of that.
So we've if anybody, we definitely check out the forums at darkerdungeon.com. So please, if you've got ideas, there's a whole suggestion. It's actually a really awesome website. It's arguably better than our website in a lot of ways for that.
It's it's way better.
So feel free to stop by the better website and post comments. I try to get in there at least twice a week. I've gotten a lot of great reference. A couple people have posted some really cool pictures that I hadn't found before on the internet, so it's been really helpful, and it's cool, like Tyler was saying, to sort of see what people think is cool or what they're sort of looking forward to. Obviously we can't jump in on every discussion, but I definitely read as much as I can and then comment where it's appropriate.
Yeah, and I've been reading and definitely have taken a few ideas, like for traps and things like that, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's great to see that, and it's inspiring, and good ideas will definitely be incorporated where we can. Sneaky Pie, I guess, he runs the place, thedarkerdungeon.com.
Oh,
and
that's him?
I think so, yeah. And then
cool.
earlier,
nice.
Earlier he asked the question, what from a fan community can you guys do to help? And I wanted to answer that one too, since we're getting close to the end, is definitely, if you're social media people, follow us on Twitter at Darkest Dungeon, like our Facebook page. Obviously some of you guys aren't Twitter people or Facebook people, that's fine. But the reason I say that is like, it's such a momentum thing where like the more people, because then you're more likely to retweet it or make a comment, then that reaches other people, it reaches the people that follow you, and it just goes and goes. And those are really important ways that we interact with people. It's not just kind of like we try not just to do completely dumb social media stuff. I mean, sometimes you will just hear what we're thinking and feeling, but we try to post cool stuff there. I mean, you're on the stream, so you're already in the know, but you have a big effect in terms of just being our fan base, and that's going to continue to grow. I mean, we're excited about the game's potential, but yeah, I mean, we don't really need anything more from you other than your support and ideas and following what we're doing. I mean, you guys probably already pre-ordered and all that, which is a big deal. And yeah, it's just, it's amazing what a big thing the community can do. So
yeah, I think it's just being there and being like vocal. Like when we tweet something about what we're up to and somebody just replies, even if it's just like a casual thing, it's just great to know that people are out there and interested. And the same thing with the forums, it's great to go and see all these like posts and people discussing what they're going to name their characters, and it's a big morale boost because yeah, we're like 4 or 5 guys in a room and we go these long periods of time without really having any sense of if we're on the right path, and it can be kind of like a doubt-filled proposition from time to time. So that's the best thing people can do, really, I think. Just
yeah, I mean, like,
be there.
When we kickstarted, for example, the people that were knew of us already and were on the list, we told them, hey, look, get in there day one and help make this big. And it was definitely a huge part of our success was people making a splash on day one, because then that gains visibility, etc. So when the time comes that we release early access, there will be a lot that you guys can do in terms of getting the word out. There's so much great competition these days, but also, discoverability is the biggest problem that we face in marketing the game, is just like, how do people hear about it? Because we feel like once people hear about us, then the game, the game carries itself. Like, you're either into it or you're not, and we feel good about what we're creating. But it's kind of reaching people, and so you'd be surprised at what a big effect that each individual person has in that. So, but we're ways off from that next step, and so at the moment it's just a matter of being our fans is awesome. That's all we need. So
we should outro with the Skelligator. Looks like that's that's gonna be a thing.
Gotta work on your intros and outros, huh?
Yeah, well, part of it is I didn't want to turn it into like have a start screen and it's like, what's up, everybody? Blah, 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 blah. It kind of defeats the purpose of like being behind the scenes if it's actually like a curated, managed, super slick experience. So part of what I was thinking with the streams is that they're a little rough because we're a little rough.
you get whatever our current thoughts and mindset are, but I think that's one of the exciting things about streaming is, I mean, a trailer is the all the work of making stuff exactly right, and this is like, what are we doing today? yeah, exactly. Besides watching Chris draw, we don't do that every single day. We don't just sit and watch Chris draw.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll catch you next week. And forums and Twitter and Facebook, and just generally being awesome is a great idea. And let's hear a Skelligator.
Oh man.
Do it.
I gotta find it.
Do it for Danny Trejo.
We gotta get off the channel. Do it.
You gotta give me 1 second. I'll try and find some sort of skeleton here. Well, my computer's running so slow right now because it's really sad. I don't know.
Ask it quick, lots of bread.
I don't know.
That wasn't it. I'll just post it. I'll post it on the chat when I
Boo.
find it.
Yeah, we gotta vacate the channel. We gotta be good.
All right.
Good buddies.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Take care. We'll catch you next time. And lots of bread. I'll answer you in the texts.